Welcome to the Pursuit of Progress podcast, where we dive into the stories and successes and maybe even some failures of personal trainers and coaches along the way so that hopefully we can help you guys as aspiring coaches and trainers shortcut the path to success in figuring out this whole fitness industry thing. And I'm excited to have my guest on here today. What is going on, Coach Danielle Fili? How are you?
I am good, Coach Drake. How are you?
I am doing great. And Danielle, the thing that I love about having you on the podcast is a lot of people like to poo-poo on the internet and social media, but I truthfully feel like I've gotten to know you in some weird way via
hmm
social media over the last couple of years.
Yes, for sure.
And for those who are listening in, just a reminder for you guys, this is available via video on YouTube and Spotify, and I think anywhere where podcasts are available. But I'm excited to have Coach Danielle on here specifically to dive into a couple topics that we haven't really talked much about on the podcast, but are pretty important. But before we dive into that, Coach Danielle, tell us a little bit about what you do with clients, personal training, online coaching. I know you have kind of a mixture of what I would call like a hybrid business, just so the people that are listening have a little idea as to what you do right now and how you work with people.
Yeah, for sure. So I started in the group fitness space a little over 10 years ago, which was super fun for me. Took a little break, came back to it because I started bodybuilding. And then I got thrust into Orange Theory, which is another group fitness experience, I would say. And then
Cult,
it was
some might call it cult,
right, exactly. And then actually during COVID, I kind of got thrust out of that out of necessity. People started reaching out to me for, can you train me from home? Can you write me this plan? And that's how my business was built. So it was online. And then a couple people like on the down low were like, hey, will you come over to my house and train me? And I was like, yeah, I want to get out. Let's do this. So I did that. And ever since then, I've just had this kind of beautiful blend of going to see people. I travel and personal train 2 to 4 sessions a day, typically Monday through Saturday. And then I also have my online clients who I don't see. I do some like FaceTime and Zooming check-ins, but I give them a plan. We work through it together day to day. And I have like 18 people online right now. So it's a good blend. I get to see people in person and then I get to train people online.
I love that. A little variety in your day to day. My
Yes,
main question though is did you do like some shoulder raises before we got on here? Because I feel like you're a little
I
bit more
did.
pumped. You're a little bit more pumped than me, which I'm not feeling comfortable about. I have to adjust my
You
camera angle.
know, I won't lie and say that I didn't do upper body today to get ready for this.
I love that.
So thanks for
And
noticing. I appreciate
yeah,
it.
you know what? We all like compliments, even us coaches and trainers.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting, especially getting to talk to you more before we kind of hit record today and then just some of our previous conversation that for anyone who might come across you, right, we're going to have links to your social media and the videos as well. And
Mhm.
they're going to check out Coach Danielle and they're going to be like, wow, this chick is super strong and she lifts heavy. And she's probably just always been like super strong and into strength training. But that's not really the case, right?
Not at all. Growing up, I just really hated my body. I thought that I was fat and I had to be skinny to have the ultimate, like, perfect life, happy, good value to myself. And I just did cardio all the time. In college, I was doing 2+ hours of cardio a day, trying to start myself to achieve that perfect skinny body, starting binging. So I went through that whole cycle of like over exercising, not eating, just to overeat. And it was constant for years and years. I only got into strength training and bodybuilding when I started to prep for my very first bodybuilding show back in 2016. So there was a good stretch of time, I would say like at least 6 years where I was doing that cardio starve binge cycle. And I've only been strength training. And I say only because I still feel like in so many ways, I'm still such a beginner in it. There's so much more to learn. But yeah, I've only been doing that since I was 26 and I'm 33 now. So about 7 years.
Wow, yeah, and I think you're right. I mean, I feel like until you hit like the 10-year mark of really strength
hmm
training, you're still like a noob in some
Yeah, for
aspects. No,
sure.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But I think it's cool too for people to see, obviously. I mean, from a client standpoint, gosh, I would imagine that your own experience and your own transformation, let's call it like previous and ongoing,
hmm
um, is something that's relatable to them Would that be correct in assuming so?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I love posting transformation photos simply because it lets people know, like, hey, I haven't always looked like this. I haven't always been this strong. I haven't always gotten it right in my form. And it's a process, it's a journey that is beautiful. And you need to appreciate all the steps along the way. But one day you're going to look back and be like, holy crap, I cannot believe how far I've come. And that's the whole journey part of it. And that's what I love so much about it. So I like to share like the befores and the afters, just so people have some context of what I have been through as well.
Well, how do you feel when you look back at those photos? Because you sent me over your kind of your before and after, and it's like
Mhm. Yeah.
it's not just a different body. Like it looks like a different person.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super proud. I'm not afraid to say that. Like, I'm very proud of not only the body that I have built, because it's been through a lot of hard work and consistency and a lot of struggle, but just the mindset and, you know, just my thoughts over time have also changed. And I think you see that in the photo where before I was like trying to suck in and be skinny and I was like, I don't feel comfortable in my body. And then the next photo I'm on stage and I'm just beaming because I'm so happy and just feel very proud. So, and empowered in what I did.
That's awesome. And I want to go more into the mindset stuff because I think that's I mean, obviously, I think it's a huge element of
Mhm.
progress and success working with clients. It's not talked about when you get certified and you get into training. But
Mhm.
before we get there, too, where along the path did you decide you wanted to help others, right? You know, as far as getting into coaching, obviously, you had been, you know, for a period of time worked out by yourself or worked in classes and done other things. How did you get into like coaching and training that piece? Because I want for people who are listening to kind of have an idea of the fact that like this was a journey that you were on, but you still stepped in and started doing the training coaching thing while you were on that journey.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like coaching has just been kind of ingrained in me since I was a kid. I was an assistant dance teacher when I was in sixth grade. Like, I would just go in
Love
and
that.
help like the 3 and 4 year olds. And I just really loved like helping people learn and making them feel good and like celebrating their wins and being like, oh my God, you did this, and having them be so excited. So that's always been in me to want to help other people. And I think that when I just got into the gym aspect of it, and people would kind of come up to me after my class and be like, you make like your class is the best part of my day, or like, I always make sure to come to your class. I love it. It just made me realize that like I can make someone else's day by showing up for them and just helping them with what I know. You know, I don't know everything. I'm not the end all be all, but if I can just pass on some knowledge and motivate someone to do something they didn't think they could do before, that gives me such a high of like, oh my God, like helping you tap into your potential means everything to me.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I definitely know I can relate getting into fitness and training. I feel like a lot of times those who make great coaches and trainers are not only those who have gone through their own process, but like are trying to go through their own process, you know,
Mhm.
that it's like you don't have to have it all figured out in order to get started. Because even for me teaching courses, it's like that helped to make me so much, you know, of a better trainer or figuring out my own body. So yeah, I think that that's cool. And I think it's great for people to hear that too. So speaking of the mindset piece, my first broader question, you know, and I think you can maybe talk to us about your transformation that you've gone through, but then also all the people that you've now been helping over the last 12 years. What role does your mindset play in getting to the goal, in seeing progress?
Everything. And when I say everything, I mean it in the way that a lot of people kind of do this on their journey. They're all in, they see the results, and then it's not sustainable, so they lose all their results. And then they do it again, and then they drop. And it's this yo-yo effect. And I was on that ride for so many years. And there's comes so much like self-deprecation with that, and feelings of like guilt, and you don't feel stronger. You feel like you're being defeated when you do quote unquote fall off track. And what I work with my clients on a lot is about sustainability and just making sure that things are long lasting. And to do that, you have to have the mindset of, I'm not going to change overnight. This is a lifelong process. This is not something where I'm in it for 14, 21, 30 days and expect miracles. It's just, it needs to become kind of a new way of life, a new way of being. And if you can't wrap your head around that and you're just like, nope, I want to get fit for this, and then you go off track, or you think of things as good and bad as far as food, I just find that people aren't able to stick to things. And it's because their mind is in the way. It's the way they view things that really put them in a bad position to not adapt those new behaviors and make it sustainable. So I think having a good mindset and motivation is great, but we all know that motivation like ebbs and flows. And when you have it, ride the wave. It's awesome. But when you don't have it, you have to rely on discipline. And that's the piece a lot of people miss. So discipline is part of a mindset. And so I think it's everything for long lasting success and happiness in the journey. That's key for me. I never want people to be miserable on the way to their goals, because then what's it for? What's it worth?
So I want to go like tactical for a second, because I would imagine for coaches who are listening, or I can even think back for me, where clients come in on day one, or maybe you're on a consult or however you do it, right? Based on what environment you're in. And they come in and you're talking about the things, you're like, all right, like tell me about your goals, what brings you in today.
Mm-hmm.
And they give you, let's call it like the over aggressive goal. Like, hey, you know what? I've got an event in 3 weeks and I want to drop 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
um, or just in general, how do you address the unrealistic goals without demotivating people to take action?
I always preface working with someone, I will chat with them before we sign up and answer questions. But if someone comes to me and they're like, I have this trip next month that I want to lose 10 pounds for, I'm like, okay, that's great that you want to start getting into shape. Can I ask you what your longer term goal is? Like after that trip, do you see yourself wanting to continue to be healthy and fit and strong? Or are you just doing it for this? Kind of feel them out and see what they say, because I want them thinking long term. I want them
Yeah.
to think like, well, what is after that? And then I kind of backtrack and we'll be like, okay, if they say, yeah, I do want to be fit long term, like, awesome. Like, transformations take time. And I'm not the coach that's going to give you, that 21 or 28-day fix. And anything that you do that's going to help you drop 10 pounds in 4 weeks is going to be really unhealthy for you. And you're just going to gain that weight right back. And I'm just very blunt because I've done it. I've seen other people do it. And again, what's it for? You just get mad at yourself over it. So I kind of let them know what to expect. If I did put you on 1,000 calories and 2 hours of cardio a day, sure, done. But then what? So I like to just preface, we can start making your transformation now and you'll feel better. Maybe you'll drop some water weight and you'll feel a little bit leaner, your body feel a little tighter. And then we're going to continue that long term and it's just going to get better and better. So making it realistic for them where they're like, okay, I understand that, the transformation that I have in my head is probably not healthy. But if I do it this way, okay, I'll start to feel a little better and it's something I can continue long term. And if that's not in it for someone, they're like, well, no, that's not what I want. I'm like, well, I'm not the coach for you.
Yeah, right. You gotta be okay being like, hey, this isn't gonna work out best for either of us.
Right.
Um,
But just
ha-
letting people know that like you understand, you hear their goal and respect it, but just also enlightening them and shedding the light on, okay, but this is the reality and this is how we can start you to or get you moving towards where you want to be. It just won't be in the time frame that you're thinking right now.
yeah. Now, because I always think this is a very interesting one, right? I mean, probably because I've never been committed enough to like do a fitness show, right? Like you have a higher level of commitment and and probably work ethic than me, Danielle. But I say that I think that there's like lots of people on both sides of the industry on how that fits in for a personal trainer, and I say
Mhm.
that I'm on phone calls sometimes with potential students who are like, you know what? I feel like I need to. Some are like, do I need to do a show in order to be right? And then others that are like, oh gosh, I'm never going to attain that. Can I be a personal trainer? So
Mhm.
with that being said, How has that either like benefited you, worked in your favor, worked against you, anything at all in regards to working with clients? Because I would imagine a lot, again, a lot of people as they come across you or they find you, they're like, holy cow, like first off, anyone with a strong physique like you, like, you stand out in the average place. So people
Mhm.
ask questions, they say things. So talk to me about that. Has that been like great for you in your business? Does it ever hold somebody back from like realistic expectations coming in on, what they're going to look like, how long it's going to take? Just speak to that for me.
I would say that it works for me and against me. Definitely a double-edged sword there, because when people see my physique close to stage time, especially, and you see all like the lines and the abs and whatever, people are like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, you look great!" Like, I want to look like you. And they think that signing up with me as a coach means that they are going to look like me. And I'm like, oh no, like you don't
We
want
got a
this.
lot to do.
You don't
You're
want
not
this
ready for
part of
this.
this. Yeah. So I think that it maybe skews people's expectations of what's going to happen when we work together. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm going to just look like you at the end of 6 months. I'm like, well, let's take it back a step. But I also think it works for me because, of course, anyone who kind of approaches me and talks about my physique, I'm like, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Like, I'm getting ready for a show. Like, I coach people, in fitness and lifting. And then it piques their interest of like, oh, well, what does that entail? It can go both ways. I will say that it also kind of just again sets unrealistic expectations, and also just this false positive of people being like, you must be so happy because you have the perfect body, or like, you have the abs and I've always wanted that, thinking that that's what makes you happy. So, and I told some of my clients this before, that when they used to comment at Orange Theory, actually, they would be taking class after class, they'd be like, whatever about my physique. And I would just be like, I'm so tired. I just want to eat. I just want to go to sleep. Like, I was just a shell of a human. So it's like,
Yeah.
what is it worth, for you, for the average person to put themselves through that, to not step on stage? It's a sport, it's an extreme sport. And I don't recommend anyone using the methodology to get there if you're not in the sport of bodybuilding,
Yeah.
I would say.
Um, so two things. One, more for my entertainment, because I always find it funny the questions that people ask a very fit person when they meet you, right? Like,
Mhm.
you're sitting on an airplane and I don't know, they ask you about how much protein you eat or something. I'm sure you've had these questions. What are
Yeah.
some of the funnier, more common questions you might get from people, even like random people who meet you at Starbucks or whatever, about
Yeah.
you and fitness and your physique?
Well, the best one is like, if someone's like, do you work out? Like, and I will always
No.
say, I'm like, no, I don't. What do you mean? No. Just to kind of been a bit, what? I'm like, absolutely not. But
Yeah.
I've definitely had people ask me like, oh my God, what do you throw up in bench? Like gross. I'm like, oh, this and that. What do you do? And, or people just be like, wow, like, people have asked me like, are you a bodybuilder? Or, um, yeah, they ask about weights
Yeah.
and,
What are you training
yeah, how
for
many
kind of
times a week
stuff?
do you
Yeah.
work out? And like, what do you do? And so again, that's usually closer to when I'm stepping on stage and you can see all the nooks and crannies of the muscles and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people will just come and be like, wow, your arms are great. Like, you're really strong. And that's cool and fine. And, but yeah.
So in the context of where you're at now with like life and business, how does that world fit in for you in the future? And the only reason I ask that too is I definitely have seen the journey and the challenge for coaches and trainers along the way of like, obviously once you get good and busy at what you're doing with training,
Mhm.
it's hard to prioritize things like doing a show and all the other stuff that you have going on. So with where you're at in training and your business, like how does that fit in for you? Is that something you look to do in the future, or you're just very satisfied with focusing on your training business? And obviously it's not like you're not still training, but it is a different
Mhm.
level of
For sure.
commitment, right?
Yeah. I would say I do see myself stepping on stage again. I do not see that happening in the next couple of years.
Mhm.
I'm about to get a puppy this weekend.
You're about to
So
become a mom, that's for
I'm about to
sure.
become a mom. So it's, going to be a lot of late nights, I'm sure. But just for the phase of life that I'm in right now, I'm very much enjoying the flexibility that I have with my social life, with training, with having my own business, and having the time for those things without feeling completely stressed. And the thing about, your preps are, it is very much, I would say, a part-time job. The level of focus and discipline you have is just next level. The amount of time you spend cooking food, eating, training, doing cardio, posing practice. People don't think about that. Like, you should be practicing posing every single day. So it's a different level of commitment. And I know I can do it because I've done it, but I'm just at the point in my life right now where I'm very much at peace with, I have nothing to prove to anybody but myself. If I don't feel ready to make that commitment, or I don't feel like it's going to add value to my life right now, I'm just not going to do it. So there was a little stretch of time last year where I kept looking at Matthew, my boyfriend, being like, I think I'm going to do a show. I don't want to do the show. I think I want to do a show. But
He's
now I'm
like,
very,
"Whatever."
yeah. And it costs so much money. People don't think about that as well. It's a very big
Crazy.
financial investment, like insane. So I don't foresee that in the next couple of years, but I love being on stage. I grew up a dancer. I find such a thrill with it. And I do like having a goal. So I think I will go back to it. But in this phase of my life, it's definitely going to be more focused on like building my business.
Yeah, and I think you hit on one that to me has always been an interesting thing from someone who's been working out and also training clients, all the things for a long time now.
Mhm.
This concept of having a goal and going through phases of life where it's kind of like you feel like you don't have a goal, but obviously you're
Mhm.
still training and working out. And for
Yeah.
probably many of us like goal driven people, that can be sometimes conflicting psychologically. How do you deal with that more so with clients, right? Because, I imagine you have some clients you've had for a while
Mhm.
and maybe they have attained most of the physical change they're going to in the realm of how much they're going to sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
So how do you maintain, I don't want to say the motivation, right? How do goals fit into that long-term lifestyle client? And how do you deal with that as a coach? How do you coach it? How do you talk about it?
So with my clients, especially my online clients, the people that check in with me every week, I have them fill out a questionnaire that addresses challenges they've had through the week, successes they've had through the week. And I also do FaceTimes now, like meetings that way as well, where I'll ask people. I just asked my client a couple days ago, I was like, give me the best, not goal, the biggest like reward you've gotten in the last month of working together, in the last year. And just for her to like reflect on how far she's come. So I really like to celebrate the wins that people have like in their day-to-day life. A lot of people say like, wow, I haven't binged in a couple weeks. And I'm like, oh my God, mind blown. That's life change. That's amazing. And some people say like, I didn't, or like I drank 50 ounces of water instead of just 10 today. And I'm like, that's so cool. So it's just really like putting a lot of high value on the small things, not the scale, not like a pair of jeans that you're trying to fit in or this like special physique that you have in your head. Because all of that stuff, while you feel like if I could just have this, then I will be happy, I can promise you that you won't. And I say that because the day after I won my pro card in bodybuilding, I was the smallest I've ever been in my life, which at the time that was my goal. I just went pro and I all I could do was sit and cry because I was like, this feels like nothing. And I was so upset that I hit this huge milestone and there was nothing going on. Like I was like, well, what's next? I feel empty. I feel aimless. Like this doesn't mean anything to me. And it's because I didn't have the right mindset going into it. I didn't appreciate what it meant. I didn't enjoy the journey. And I think that people miss that whole piece a lot, thinking that if I can just get here, I'll be happy. So I often refer back to their older check-ins and I'll pull something from there. Like, remember when you said this? Now you're here. Like, do you see the progress that you've made? It's not the drastic progress, but you're slow and steady and you're making changes, and especially in your behaviors. And that will carry you so much further than going hard for 30 to 60 days, right? So just building good day to day, and just keeping people motivated with giving them weights or goal weights as far as lifting. I'll be like, next week I really think you can do this. And then they'll do it and they'll be so pumped. So little things like that.
Yeah. And I guess as a coach and trainer, then how did you start to pick up on that? I mean, because I know for me, those weren't the things that I was really coaching people on when I first started. It was the normal ones, like our weight loss, our body composition, our circumference measurements. So either A, how did you start to figure out some of those, like coaching them on more of the behavioral stuff? Did you learn it somewhere? Did you just pick it up from working with another coach? How did you start to integrate that into what you're doing?
So it was after my second bodybuilding show where my mindset really hadn't changed from the first one. I was trying to get skinny. And after my first show, I blew up and gained a ton of weight. And then I did a second show to lose all that weight. And then afterwards, I was like, this is insane. Like, I cannot keep doing this because I'm so unhappy. I'm putting my body through actual hell to get here. And the way that I was looking at food and exercise was very unhealthy and toxic. And so I started looking into, like, is there psychology with food, like with eating? Is this a thing, or am I crazy? And there was actually an institute for the psychology of eating. And I took a course on it, 8 months long. I got certified as an eating psychology coach, learning about how to navigate people's struggles with food and their body image and having better behaviors and mindset. And it really catapulted me into being like, yes, I relate to this. I want other people to know that they're not crazy. I want them to have the tools to know how to handle things. And I mean, that just really kind of took off in that way for me. But I would say it wasn't until I took that course and felt like I was kind of validated in a way that, again, I wasn't crazy, that this was a real thing. And I had this new knowledge to help other people.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say then that, like, you going through that course was a lot of you figuring it out yourself, like learning for you,
1 million
applying it in your own life,
Yeah.
before working with clients?
Yes, 1 million percent. And I didn't work with clients on this particular topic and didn't start to kind of like push for that until probably like 2 years after that, when I started having clients. Because again, I was still figuring out myself. And once I felt like I had a handle on it and I was like, oh my God, these methods work. I can totally help people. I haven't binged in a year. Like, even if I'm not perfect, I can help somebody else because I have conquered this challenge and can show somebody else how to do the same. So it's never about perfection. Don't let that hold you back to thinking, oh, I'll mess up. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. You just have to know a little bit more than somebody else to help them.
Yeah, and I think that's a big misconception for people getting into the fitness industry, men and women alike, but maybe even more so from some of the females that I get to connect with, which I think in a great way, the percentage of trainers getting certified every year has consistently continues to go up, like in percentage female to male, which is awesome. You guys are
Yeah.
more intuitive than we are, so it's great. But I think there's a big feeling amongst a lot of women that way, that like, I'm not where I need to be, so I'm not ready to help someone else, instead of like, I've already come a long way. And if I can help someone who's like, further down the line than me, then it's actually probably going to be the way that I help myself as well. Right. It's like
Yes.
you learn and you teach yourself by coaching.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Definitely.
awesome. I love that. So here's a question. I'm going to kind of take that and shift gears a little bit.
Mhm.
Which, first off, I appreciate you opening up and talking about that stuff, because that's like the real life stuff that I think in
For
many
sure.
ways, even for a lot of the guys, I mean, gosh, I had plenty of my own, looking back now, very unhealthy habits with
Mhm.
fitness and eating. I think as humans, we're naturally extreme, and it's much easier to live here or to live here. In
Yep.
between's real hard.
The gray
Um,
area is like hard to navigate. It's hard for people to get a grasp on, but that's where like the reward is.
It's not sexy though either, you know?
Not sexy.
It's
People love
not
sexy and
sexy.
it's not.
It's like I either wanna be working out 3 hours a day or I wanna be on the beach in Ibiza, but
Yeah.
nowhere in between.
Exactly.
Although I think it's Ibiza. I'm not sure how to say it. I don't know.
Ibiza.
I get yeah.
It sounds like you're
Uh,
saying pizza to me, so I don't know.
Love it. We're probably upsetting some people who are big Ibiza fans right now, but that's okay. Back to what I was going to say, which is let's talk more about like the mixture of your business. I love the you're doing in person training. Obviously, you had a lot of in person experience as a group instructor, which I think plays a big role in being great with people and connecting and speaking.
Mhm.
And now you do some stuff online. Um, is your business is it really, are you 50-50? Are you doing more in person online? Like a little, give us a little idea. And I don't need to know how many clients, but like kind of how much time do you spend on each? And then
Mhm.
from that too, is there one that you like more?
Mhm. So I would honestly say I probably spend a little bit more time doing my online work
Mm-hmm.
just because I check every person's workout every single day. Some people attach videos and I do form for every single video that they do. So I can be online for hours a day. And then I do like check ins once a week. Sometimes I have FaceTime calls. So, but then there are also days on training where I'll have 5 back to back and I'm going here, there, and everywhere. So I would say on average it's close, but I probably spend overall a little more time online. I would also say that I probably have a little more online clients than in-person clients.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as liking one over the other, I think they both have such amazing aspects to them. What I like more about in person is the energy and having the connection. It's a lot harder to connect with somebody just kind of like typing things out. It's like when someone misreads a text and you're like, oh, like, how did they say that? You know,
What did
like,
she mean?
right. And so I'm like, why didn't, I mean, I'm not going to like insult anybody on, by writing it, but someone could totally take my, why don't you try this weight next week as like, "Ugh, well, why don't you try this next week instead of, in a positive way. So being
Yeah.
in person definitely gives me the edge on personality and the inflection in my voice and cheering someone on and also making like corrections in time and not after the fact, which can be very helpful. So I love the energy I get being in person. But as far as online, I really love that I can do it from home. So I'm not traveling around. I get to sit at home, sometimes in bed in my slippers and whatever. And I get to like write out plans and just connect with people in a different way. So I would honestly say like what makes me more excited is the in person, but I'm very grateful to have my online part of it too. It's kind of a split answer. That's tricky. I don't
Yeah, no,
know.
I mean, and there's not a right answer, so I just wanted to know how you felt about
Yeah.
it. Maybe here's a better way of framing it. Would you be happier or less happy, I guess we could call it, if you were doing only one of those, right? Because obviously right now you have the variety of both.
Hmm.
Do you like that variety? Would you like to be doing, right? If you could snap your fingers and just think about you as a trainer and being fulfilled and liking what you're doing and making good money. Would you like to be doing all one or the other? Or do
No,
you
I
like to, or do you,
love the variety. I
yeah.
love how it challenges me in different ways. And I feel like it has helped me grow in different ways. Being in person, you need like the energy is great and queuing in like in real time. And then as far as being online, just kind of working more in depth with someone like my online clients are where I do like the deeper work because I have the time. I'm not on the hour clock of you have to get all these sets in,
Mhm.
it's those
Yeah.
other clients. So I get much more mindset work as well as like the workout work with my online clients. So I get both facets of what I'm interested in and it doesn't burn me out. And I think that's the beautiful thing about doing both and like a hybrid. You get to go out for a couple hours a day, but then you get to come home and shift gears and, grow and help other people in a completely different way. So I know the feeling of being burnt out by doing the same thing over and over and over and going from a love to hate with that thing. And I never want that to be my relationship with coaching and fitness. I like that I look forward to both.
Well, I like your answer on that because I think that there's a misconception with online coaching and training that it's going to be, and maybe for it is for some, like it's the end all be all. Like you
Mhm.
want to get your business there, right? That's what Instagram tries to tell us, that you got to get into online. In person's not where it's at. You're going to get burnt out. But it's different, right? I mean, obviously, I think if you're a good, I would say a good technician, right? Meaning you're a great trainer, there's an element of that that's very different online. And
Yes.
you might not even be as good at it, right? They're kind of two, they're complementary skill sets, but they're also still different than just being there. And that's what, some of the stuff we talk about even with our students is that honestly, most people, and I'd love your opinion on this too, most people wouldn't succeed going online right away because there's things that you do in person that you
Mhm.
can learn to translate over. But it's hard to go the opposite, that if you're just going to go right into online, do you know how to coach and cue? Do you know how to break those things down, even with a real person? Because if you can't succeed with them in real life where it's easier, then the online is challenging.
I would definitely say that. I mean, I have learned how to communicate and cue with all different kinds of people from my group fitness experience.
I
And
love
that
it.
has helped me kind of navigate the online world, especially when people tell me, like, this hurts, or I have had a previous injury. What's an option for me? And, in Orange Theory real time, if someone was like, I can't do this, I have a torn labor, I'm gonna be like, okay, option. Like, what is it? You had to be on your toes.
Yeah.
So it helped me like be very creative and think quick and just know my stuff. And as far as the queuing part goes, it's really hard to queue something if you haven't done it in person. I feel like you need to know what's relatable to people and what people respond to know if it's effective. You can't just someone who's just straight out of a NASM course or something and trying to be all technical with anatomy, no one's gonna freaking know what you're talking about. Like, you have to
Yeah.
have the nice, like, glide the hips back with the hinge or something like that. Like, knowing your verbiage and what people connect with is so important when you're doing online work, unless you're someone who just wants to write out a plan and subscribe it and just like be done with it. But if you want to coach somebody, I feel like you have to have the knowledge and experience to do it effectively, as effectively as possible.
Well, and even if you're going to do the subscriber type thing and at lower cost programs, whatever, you're still going to have to get a huge following to make any money off of it.
Right, right,
So yeah,
100%.
I think there's again, yeah, I think a lot of misinformation there, but I love that for any of you guys that are listening. I hope you guys paid attention because Danielle just laid down it's like mic dropping some knowledge on you guys on the coaching and queuing. I think especially with the group fitness. I mean, I say that I had a big group fitness background as well. Funny enough, I think one of the first times I met my wife Megan, she came into my PIO class. Right now, for those
Oh,
who
I
are
know
listening,
Pio.
yeah, for those who are listening, you're like, Joe, you taught a PIO class. It is a combination Pilates and yoga, guys. I just want you to know
Mhm.
that. I had to step in and sub for somebody, but whatever. Like, there's so much benefit of getting good with group, whether it's Orange Theory, group fitness, because yeah, if you can teach a squat to 20 people, one person becomes very easy.
Yes. And I mean, it's the time management, it's the little like special connections. I was in a room with 36 people and I had to people on treadmills, rowers, strength floor, and you have to be everywhere at the same time. And I'm not saying that everyone has to be in that kind of setting, but putting yourself a little bit under pressure to be in person, real time, I think is good. I think it really kind of develops your character and your knowledge and your skill.
Love that. And I don't know either because I know you were at Orange Theory
Hmm.
when the pandemic hit, right? Is that right?
Yeah. Yep.
So, how did that also play into the building of your personal training business? And I don't mean like just the pandemics. I know you mentioned that obviously kind of thrust you into doing your own thing, but
Hmm.
were even prior to the pandemic, were you getting one-on-one clients from teaching at Orange Theory, or were you doing much one-on-one then? Tell me about that.
No, I was working out with one woman who I didn't even have her pay me for it, but she wanted to work out with me because she wanted to learn. I was like, sure, just come to LA Fitness and we'll work out together. But other than that, no, I had no personal clients. And it was only when COVID hit that people were reaching out to me, wanting me to like go to their house and train them. I was carrying dumbbells in the back of my car and like driving to different people's houses. So like we made it work and it was great. And after that, once things started to get back to normal, people were still continuing to reach out. A lot of referrals, people being like, "Oh, I heard that you do this." It was like an underground thing. I was like, "Yeah, I do. Like,
On the
come see me
DL.
after class."
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Well, honestly, and I know a lot, especially here in South Florida, right? The home of Ellen. I know
Oh my God, yeah.
a lot of Orange Theory instructors who built their personal training businesses off of teaching classes.
Yeah.
So I
You
think it's
meet hundreds and hundreds of people. So if you're good at what you do and people like you, they will find you if you leave,
I love
or
that.
if you do something else, I should
If you
say.
do something else, or
Yeah.
even if you're doing it, right? Because I know Orange Theory
Yeah.
doesn't offer one-on-one training, right?
They
So it's
don't.
like, I mean, at least down here, it wasn't really frowned upon as long as people weren't like leaving the Orange Theory business.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Correct.
why weren't you doing one-on-one training when you were teaching classes? Was it just not, it wasn't a thought, it wasn't a desire? Like, what was the reason that you weren't doing one-on-one training?
I feel like I feel like people make change out of desperation or inspiration. And my business was built out of desperation because I was like, I need a paycheck.
Yeah.
Like, I love fitness, but it kind of like just fell into my lap and I grabbed the chance to do it because I needed stability, and it just ended up working out and being great. But as far as like before that, I really didn't feel the need to do my own thing because at the time I really loved what I did and I felt like I was making a great change. I didn't have the time really to do anything else. And I was also competing at that time. So I was super exhausted and it just wasn't a need for me. But once I saw kind of the light of doing my own thing, I was like, I don't want Orange Theory. I want this other thing. And
Yeah.
then I just made the switch.
Did you along the way, especially when you first started? And also, I guess, do you miss the group environment like that at all? Did you miss it once you transitioned over?
I missed the people, but not for 1 second did I miss going into that room and
Putting
coaching.
putting the mic on, turning the music up,
Yeah.
dancing.
Yeah, micing up and like having those 36 people and people yelling at me that their heart rate monitors didn't work. I was like, oh my God, I don't know. I just want to teach you how to deadlift. I don't know about IT stuff. So, but really, I still do like the smaller group, like semi personal training. So I have groups anywhere from like 3 to 7 people. So I still get that aspect of it. I have a group called LPD, and it's like all this neighborhood people that got together, and it's so fun. And we do like garage workouts, and I love that. And it's become like my little family. So that's been super fun. It definitely fills the void of the group fitness part of it,
Yeah.
and high energy, great connections with people. And then I have my quieter side online with really one-on-one. So again, I get the best of both worlds.
Is that the photo that you sent to me? It looked like
Yes.
it was like a 4th of July type
Yep.
workout or
We do
something.
themed workouts.
Love that. Love
Great.
that. You got to carry that over.
Yeah.
Well, and that was actually going to be my next question was especially in a one-on-one business, or primarily, obviously, now I know you kind of have some small groups, is kind of how you still create that community, right? Because I think that's something that can be missing for some coaches when they're only doing one-on-one is how do you create connection amongst your people, like to
Mhm.
create those bonds and those relationships. So it sounds like you have the small group.
Mhm.
Any other things that you do to kind of like tie people together to you and like the people you work with?
So honestly, I'm in the process now of trying to create something like that with my online community.
Yeah.
And I have a business coach, and we were talking, or a career coach, we were talking a lot about like how to do that because community is important for sure. And so I'm in the process of doing that. I was talking to him and just being like, quite honestly, social media can be really annoying to me. And I will say this because I know a lot of other people are afraid to show up on social media and put themselves out there on social media and like, hi, you're not alone. I like am just recently trying to be more consistent in an authentic way and not overshare or whatever. But if I feel like posting, truly, I do. And if I don't, then I don't force it. On my business, I was very blessed to have it be like very much referral based from the people that I already had. So I haven't had to have like a website or, this big community that I'm trying to shove down people's throats or anything. I've been very, very blessed in that way. But I still want to try to build something that's where all my online people can kind of connect with each other and go if they wanted to. So working on that, but I think the constant connection I have with them almost every single day when they do a workout is probably like, okay, I know that I'm not alone, kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that. And I also love that you said that about, like some of the things that you don't have, because I do think that, again, it's almost easier to work on all the things like a website and business cards and a brand, all these things rather than just getting clients. And like, you really don't need any of those things just to get clients, right?
My
I mean,
career coach was like, "You're using that as a reason to not move forward." He's like, I was like, "No, I'm not. No, I totally was." I was like, "But I don't have this, that, or the other thing. So like, how can I be super successful in what I do?" And he's like, "Because of what you know and what the feeling you give people and the stuff that actually matters." And I was like, "Yeah, no, that's true."
Yeah, like, I guess you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's, I look at that. Thankfully, honestly, I think that's the nice thing is that you don't really need any of those things to truly,
No.
especially if you're going to just serve 10, 15, 20, 30 people. Obviously, as your aspirations to do more increase, then
Mhm.
maybe those change. Or like you said, maybe you want to create some different, deeper connections for people. But otherwise, it's just like get in front of people, connect with people, be a
Yep. You
per
gotta
be a
jump.
be a person.
Yeah.
Um, awesome, very cool. Well, so the last thing I want to ask you, which first off, for anyone who's listening, guys, I definitely hope that you guys connect with. Obviously, I know we just talked about the fact that Danielle doesn't love social media, but don't worry, she's still on social
I
media. I
am,
see her
yes.
posting things there, and she's soon going to have a puppy. So I guarantee you, I know what's going to be on there. It's going to be a puppy, all right?
Mhm.
Because you were once upon a time you were going to be a vet. Is that right?
That's what I went to undergrad for, pre-vet at Penn State.
And look at you now. Now you're coaching like human animals instead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be doing shoulder presses with her, just one arm.
So
Combine animal and fitness.
if you guys want shameless puppy content, then definitely follow her.
Yeah.
But I say that too because I think that sometimes, again, social media can get a bad reputation. But
Mhm.
I find just like when I first moved to South Florida, right? I grew up on a farm in Missouri, the middle of nowhere. I moved to South Florida. East Coast culture is different. Took me a
Yeah.
while to find my people. And I think the internet's kind of like that too, where it's like, I mean, you can still use it over time. You find like the people that you want to connect with and that you relate to. And then I think just observe. I mean, for me, it's been so powerful, like looking the people that maybe I aspire to do somewhat of what they want to do. And in social media has been a way for me to kind of get to know them and get to know the people I don't want to be like.
Yep.
But then find those that I do connect with and just kind of see like, how do they show up on these areas? And how does that relate to what it's like when I meet them in person? And I
Mhm.
say that for those who are listening, because I feel very much like and again, for you guys, like the secret, the hidden information in our podcast today is that we're connected via family.
Mhm.
That my wife, Megan, is the sister of Danielle's boyfriend, Matt. And but I say that because like in the couple times we've gotten to connect in person, I feel very much like, hey, my conversations with you in person have been like what I see this person online being as well. And that's also
Mhm.
sometimes hard to do, right? Because you're also like motivated to post things you think people want you to post or whatever. And that's challenging.
Yes. I go by the theory that like if it feels gross to post, if it feels yucky, and it's probably gonna come off yucky, and you probably shouldn't post it.
That's gonna be my quote for the call today. If it feels yucky, don't
Yeah.
do it.
With
Maybe just a
anything in
quote
life,
for life.
anything.
Yeah.
Follow your gut.
I like that. But I just say that I think, Danielle's, I think, a great person for you guys to connect and follow. I think, especially for me, maybe I'm impartial or not impartial. Maybe I'm partial because now I'm hashtag girl dad. And so I look
Mhm.
at it like, the females out there in the world, not just in the fitness industry, setting the example for others. I think there's so much to be had there because I think that
Yeah.
the industry needs more women, not just in the industry, because again, I've seen that trend over the last 10 years, but I
Yeah.
think more women who aren't afraid to step into the light and be
Mhm.
an example and like, talk about training, talk about their own journey, because I already know from all the women I've worked with over time, they need more female coaches and trainers as well, right? I look around, I've been to fitness conferences for the last 15 years, and it's not until the last 5 years that there's really females there talking, right? Like,
Interesting. Yeah.
which is, I mean, I know is a crazy thing because
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, you look at the industry and the percentage of females is very high.
Yep.
But just something that, I look at. And I said, that's my challenge to you, Danielle, is to continue to put yourself out there because I
Yeah.
think you're setting a great example for a lot of coaches.
Thank you very much.
So parting wisdom, any pieces of advice? Again, this podcast is primary, which first off, I think you shared a lot of messages, even for clients that might be listening in on their journey. I think is super cool. But for coaches and trainers who want to get to a place in their training business and life where they feel really good about what they're doing and the mixture of what they're doing, because that's what I take from you is like you're working with clients in person, you
Mhm.
enjoy that, the amount that you're doing, you're working with clients online, you like the impact that you're having. But it's taken you a while to get there, right? You've been doing this for 12 years.
Yeah, a little over 10. Yeah.
What would be like a nugget of wisdom or an area for new coaches and trainers to focus on to try to move in that direction?
I would really say like try a lot of different things and you kind of just gravitate towards what feels right to you. And I mean, it was kind of a, it's a joke to say like if it feels yucky, don't do it, but really like lean into how you feel and how something makes you feel. I'm very much someone who's driven by like passion and like I have to love what I do to be able to wake up in the morning and not dread it or go to bed dreading the next day. I've had jobs like that. I don't want to live my life like that. And I feel like personal training in this industry is such a great way to find like to make something that's pretty generic fitness, make it your own, right? Like find the pieces of it that you connect with, that you love, that you have a personal history with, and start there. Don't try to do something that someone else is doing just because they did it and it was successful. If it doesn't speak to you, then it's probably not going to come off in the best way to your clients. You're not going to coach it as effectively. And I don't think will be as happy doing what you're doing. So go from like what kind of sets your soul on fire about this industry in health, fitness, and ride that wave. Kind of dip your toe in different ponds, maybe do a couple certifications, even though it's not completely necessary. But knowledge is power, and just having the tools in your tool belt to kind of elevate your expertise of what you're trying to do. But yeah, just do what makes you feel good. That's always my recommendation to people.
And if it feels yucky, it's yucky.
Hmm. If it feels yucky, it is yucky.
Well, talking to you today, Danielle, makes me happy for the industry. It makes me happy for all the people that you get to work with because I just know that the impact that you have on their lives is amazing. And I just really appreciate you coming on, giving us some time out of your day to talk about it. So thanks for being on the podcast.
Of course. Thank you very much for having me. And I hope, I've impacted someone in some way.
Love it. And I'll make sure that I put in the show notes, guys, for those that are listening or watching, the areas and places that you can connect with Danielle. But for those who are listening right now, too, where's the best place for them to connect with you? Like social media platforms, whatever, or, where are you most active that if someone wants to shoot you a question, that you're likely to get it?
Definitely Instagram, just at Danielle.Fili. I don't have any other social media platforms. I don't have Facebook. I don't have TikTok. I guess an old soul in that way. I don't have those things.
Hey, I like it.
Yeah.
Simple, simple,
Yeah.
simple. But you're doing great things, Danielle. And I look forward to maybe having you on the podcast again in the future and hearing about all that you're working on.
I hope so. Thank you so much, Joe.